Hey guys, I have two book reviews here for you today, all based around Norse mythology. The first being Runemarks by Joanne Harris, and the Loki Agent of Asgard graphic novel series by Al Ewing. Runemarks by Joanne Harris follows 14-year-old Maddie Smith, who is an outcast in her village because of a ruin mark on the palm of her hand. The mark is associated with witchcraft, and the villagers fear Maddie because of it. But the mysterious traveler, known as One-Eye, sees Maddie's mark as a symbol of her destiny, and helps Maddie learn the magic of centuries past, a magic supposedly destroyed centuries ago after the fall of the gods. So, yeah, you guys, I consider this a pretty well, incredibly done young adult novel, full of action, a great, strong female protagonist, and guess what? No romance. This whole novel, it is seriously all about the story and the character of Maddie Smith and this hero's journey that she ultimately goes on, if you will. So, yeah, my plot summary is fairly vague, but what you ultimately need to know about this novel is that it is heavily reliant on Norse mythology, the Norse gods, the Norse culture, and yeah, it just follows this young girl. She has this magical symbol on the palm of her hand, and people fear her because they think it's associated with witchcraft, but yeah, there's something greater going on, and a connection that Maddie has with the gods of old. But here's the one drawback of this novel, unfortunately, and this may break it for you, whether or not you enjoy this book or not. This book is incredibly dense. As you can see, it's not a very small book. It is a fairly large book for a young adult novel. It does get to about 500 pages, and yet the subject matter in this novel is pretty dense. And I guess what I mean by that, you better know your Norse mythology when you head into this book. Because what Joanne Harris does with this book, she doesn't really spend a hell of a lot of time explaining Norse mythology to the reader. It's kind of something she's almost assuming you know about, and you're either going to like that or you're not, unfortunately. And for me, at least, I'm fairly knowledgeable of Norse mythology. I definitely do not consider myself an expert by any means. I definitely do not know every single little bit of detail, but I have read things like the Edda. I have read a couple different versions of the Edda. And yeah, I mean, even through like the Marvel comics, you know, like with Thor and Loki from the Marvel comics and the Marvel movies and stuff like that, it's like I know a little bit of Norse mythology through that, but yeah, I don't know all of it. I just kind of know a lot of the basics and a lot of the big figures in, you know, among the gods and the goddesses. So even for me, someone who is a bit more knowledgeable on Norse mythology compared to average people, yeah, even for me at times, I was pretty confused. The narrative can be not only dense, but it could be a bit overwhelming. And Joanne Harris does spend a good little portion of the book trying to set up this world for you and the world building and what is exactly going on in this world. What is up with the rune mark on Maddie's palm, and they're trying to explain the gods and the goddesses and the fall of them. But I think what I particularly found the most confusing about this world, I was never quite sure if this world is our world, you know, but like kind of in a historical fiction setting, of course. So I didn't understand if it was in our world, or if it was in some sort of alternate version of our world, or if it was a completely new fantasy world, you know what I mean? And yeah, I never quite understood exactly. I mean, at the start of this book, there is a map. But yeah, it's like I still have no idea if this map is our map or a fantasy world map. It's kind of hard to tell, and I don't know if I'm just stupid. And part of me does want to believe that this is some sort of fantasy world, because there's these group of characters in the novel called the Examiners, and they're sort of described like church people. and they studied the Word, which I took to mean they were studying something like the Bible. The Word was very reminiscent of the Bible, to me anyway. So yeah, maybe this was some sort of fantasy world, because yeah, they never really referred to things like how we would refer to them in our world, if that makes sense. You know, it's the Word instead of the Bible. And then also part of the world building, if you know your Norse mythology, you know about Yggdrasil, which is the world tree, and there's 9 realms and all of that. And yeah, Maddie lives in one of these 9 worlds on the world tree. It's all very complex. So yeah, I cannot repeat enough, you guys. You better know your Norse mythology, or you're going to be kind of confused. You're not going to know who these characters are, what their motives are. And Joanne Harris doesn't give you much time to sit and process certain things, because the character Maddie is immediately thrown into this cycle of events, and you kind of got to go with Maddie. So speaking of the characters, and I guess more specifically talking about the gods, which are a big important aspect of this novel, Joanne Harris doesn't have incredibly complex characters by any means. The characters are all fairly one-dimensional in some ways, but at the end of the day, I still really enjoyed the characters, especially the gods. I really liked all of their various different personalities and their quirky traits. So yeah, I think what I'm also trying to say, this novel is definitely more about the story and the journey, more so than, you know, really fleshing out these characters. I mean, I think a couple of the characters do get fleshed out, but yeah, that's just it. Just a couple of the characters, especially the character of Maddie has moments of being fleshed out, and then the character of Loki is fleshed out quite a bit as well. And speaking of Loki, why is it that whenever Loki pops up on a movie or a TV show or a book, just anything, any sort of media, whenever Loki pops up, he's always my favorite character. And yeah, I think he was easily my favorite character in this book as well. I loved his complexity and his issues and his demons, and yeah, I really loved his relationship with Maddie. They had a really interesting dynamic with one another, just this whole give and take going on between them. And then just speaking about Maddie, I love the fact that Maddie is just this little precocious preteen girl, but she's really wise and intelligent, and she gets things done. But yeah, once again, sometimes her character would fall a bit flat for me in terms of her personality, and Joanne Harris not doing quite enough to flesh her out in the ways that I was hoping she would be fleshed out. So yeah, I guess my question for you guys, have you guys read Runemarks by Joanne Harris? What did you think? Do you plan on reading this? Like I said, just the biggest warnings I can give for this novel. Definitely very dense with the Norse mythology. So if you are a big Norse mythology fan, if you have some sort of familiarity with it, I definitely recommend this for you. And yeah, if you're also just looking for a narrative that's really smart and intelligent, and it doesn't dumb things down for the reader, I definitely recommend this for you as well, because it's very smart writing, I think, very intelligent, and yeah, it doesn't make you feel like you're an idiot or something. So moving on from that, I'm going to talk really quickly about the 3-part graphic novel series Loki, Agent of Asgard, done by Al Ewing, Marvel Comics. I have already done various different reviews throughout the years for this particular series, but I just now finally got done with the 3rd book in the series. And yeah, I just want to give my thoughts and opinions quickly on this little trio of comics. Let's put it this way, if you are a Loki fangirl, and what I mean by that, if you love Tom Hiddleston's portrayal of Loki in the Marvel movies, this little trio of comics is definitely for you. It plays up to the fangirls of the Loki character. Which honestly didn't bother me at all. I love that, because the interpretation of Loki you have in this trio of comics, he's definitely young, and he's hip, and he's stylish, and yeah, you really love him, and you root for him, and he has such great humor and banter with other characters. He's definitely not this all-out villain like he has typically been in past Marvel comics. Because the ultimate thing going on with Loki in these comics is his quest to finally be a good guy, get away from his past as the villain. But that's kind of his whole journey, that can he get away from his past, or is he ultimately destined to be and remain the villain? That's the big question that he faces issue after issue. And the way he tries to earn redemption is that he is given these various different missions that are almost very James Bond-esque, if you will. And yeah, he's given these missions to go maybe retrieve something or go help somebody, just any sort of mission you can think of. He goes to do it, and yeah, he hopes to get like a past misdeed erased from his record. Like I said, I don't want to spend too much time talking about this series, but overall I love this series, or like it rather. I loved the first book, being Trust Me. I loved this first one, and I guess my disappointment is that the other two issues did not match up to this first one, unfortunately. This first volume was just so fun, so witty. I loved the Loki character immensely and all the other characters surrounding him. And then yeah, the last two volumes, things got a little dark and dense. And then plus, my big issue with the series as a whole, I suppose, you have to have read a lot of other Marvel comics. And yeah, there was constantly little references saying, oh, make sure you go check out issue such and such of this series if you want to know what this character is talking about. And yeah, sometimes I would just be really confused. I didn't understand what was going on sometimes because, yeah, I didn't understand what was going on in other Marvel comics and other Marvel characters, you know? So yeah, I guess what my big issue is, I just wish that this series was solely focused on the Loki character and his adventures and the relationships that he has with other characters. You know, I didn't really care for all of the other events going on in the Marvel Universe, because I've not read any of those. So yeah, by the time you get to the third volume, things can get a little hectic and crazy and confusing a wee bit, and yeah, things got pretty dark and dramatic as well. I almost kind of didn't like the change in direction, because like I said, this first volume is just so fun and witty and light, and then things get, like I keep saying, just dark and dramatic by the final volume. I kind of didn't really like that direction, to be quite honest. But still, if you are a casual reader of Marvel Comics and you're just looking for a good place to start and read, I definitely recommend the Loki Agent of Asgard series. Definitely very friendly to a casual Marvel reader, that's for sure. Like I know I said it can get pretty crazy and confusing, but still, I think compared to other Marvel series, this is probably still a really good starting place, especially if you like the Loki character like I do. So yeah, you guys, that's it for these two book reviews. They have some sort of tie to Norse mythology. So in the comments below, have you guys read either of these? Do you want to read either of these? Just let me know down below. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.